Hello, welcome to Daryl's Beekeeping Videos. I'm a master beekeeper and tonight's lesson is on queen excluders. To use a queen excluder or not is a personal decision. Some beekeepers love them, other beekeepers hate them. I'm kind of in between. I see some utility in them, but I personally don't use them in my apiary. I'm not opposed to use them, but again, I typically don't. And the reason for that is, first of all, let's start off with what a queen excluder is, and then I'll talk about the types and what you would typically use them for. So a queen excluder is nothing more than a bunch of slats in a mesh frame of some sort, as you can see. And by its very name, what it does, it prevents the queen from going down or up or passing through this mesh. It allows the workers to pass the individual bars, or if you have a plastic version of this, the individual spaces in between it allows a worker to pass between this grating, but the queen, in theory, can't go through it to the other side. Thus its name is queen excluder. So what you would typically use this for is if you're trying to keep the queen in a certain area of a hive. The typical instances where you might use this, if you are doing swarm prevention and you are using the Dummies method of swarm prevention. There are plenty of videos on YouTube on how to do the Dummies method of swarm prevention. Basically, if you see swarm cells, you basically isolate the queen to a lower box, take all the queen cells, destroy them, leave the queen down below with maybe just a few workers as attendants, and leave her plenty of comb to lay on, but then you take everything else above it, 1 to 2 boxes above it. You may or may not use a queen excluder right above her chamber, and then ideally you have 2 boxes of preferably honey, so it creates a nice honey band where she won't go up and over. If not, you can have 2 empty boxes. Again, use the queen excluder. And then you could possibly use a second queen excluder, although most people don't use a second queen excluder. And then from there you have the rest of the brood up above, again about the 3rd or 4th box high. And the concept is when the bees, once the bees get their swarm instinct, it's hard to break it. I did an experiment this year where I went 10 weeks before they finally stopped the swarm instinct. I would go in every week and destroy queen cells. And it took them 10 weeks to break it, to break that cycle. Whereas when you use the Dummies method, it can take as little as 2 weeks to break the swarm instinct. Sometimes you may have to repeat it. So some books that you read on the Dummies method say it may take 3 to 4 weeks, depending on how long it takes them to break that instinct. But again, so basically you destroy all the queen cells after you place it correctly. The bees think, oh, we're queenless. They take any young larvae up to 3 days old. They create a new swarm cells. You go in and destroy those. You wait an additional 3 days till you make sure that there are no eggs or any young larvae that they can make a queen cell from. Once you've verified that there are no queen cells, then you simply put everything back in its original configuration. And then they're happy that they have a new queen again, which is their old queen to start off with. So that's the Dummies methods, which would be one use. The primary use that I would possibly use the queen excluder for. Some people love a queen excluder during a nectar flow because, again, you're keeping the queen contained to a certain area. In this case, you're keeping her trapped below, and then all your honey supers are stacked up on top of that. And in theory, she can't get above this queen excluder and then lay eggs above that, so you're getting only honey. And the reason I say in theory, because if you have a small cell queen, which is 4.9 millimeters, every once in a while she'll be able to slip through some of these grates, depending on the manufacturer of how well they space these little spaces between the bars. A small cell queen can possibly get through these, so there's no absolute guarantee that it works. Again, so that's the main purpose. Also, commercial beekeepers will use this whenever they're doing their packages. They'll go through and remove all the queens, and then they may use a queen excluder while they're setting up overnight and making sure that the hives are queenless so that they don't get a queen in there inadvertently somehow. And again, it's just an insurance tool for them. So the queen excluders come in a few different types of styles. They come in this unbound metal version. So there's no bounding other than just a metal latting around the sides of this all the way around, just to keep you from cutting your hands. The next one is next up for that. They've just taken this metal one and they put it inside a wooden frame, and I'll pull it a little closer just so you can see it a little easier. So you can see it's just got a wooden frame around it, and if I slide it up, you can see where the slot of the metal has gone into that wood. And then up a little closer is the metal version of the queen excluder. And then they have a cheaper version, which is nothing more than plastic of it. So they come in a variety of sizes. The most common are the 8 frame and the 10 frame. This is an 8 frame because it fits nicely. You'll see, again, this is a 10 frame. So again, there's nothing that says you couldn't use a 10 frame queen excluder on an 8 frame setup, but you want to generally want to try to get the right size for the right box. But because the bees can't curl them up and over this, if that's all you have is a 10 frame, then you could use that and it should work just fine. So that is the purpose of the various queen excluders and how you use it. Again, the most common is with the Dummies method, or whenever you're during a nectar flow and you want to keep the queen down so it protects your honey supers from having the queen come up and laying in it. If you by chance have that happen where a queen comes up and lays an egg in your honey supers, don't panic. Think about it. In 21 days, because those are more than likely worker cells, or if she laid a drone, then you have to wait 24 days. Eventually that egg is going to turn into a larvae, and then it's going to turn into a pupae, and then it's going to emerge as an adult. And it's going to come out, and the bees are going to go back and backfill that cell with honey. So just wait it out. I had that happen in my second year. She got up. I wasn't using the queen excluder, but she just got up into my honey super, laid a nice brood pattern, and I just waited her out until all the workers emerged, and then they backfill it, and there's no problem at all. And the second reason I typically don't use these is with the queen excluders, it typically wears out the workers' wings faster than what they would normally wear out anyway, simply because as they pass through this grating, that grating is rubbing on their wings and it's causing a little bit more wear and tear on the honeybees. Remember, a summer honeybee is only going to live about 45 days, and by causing her to go through this grating, you can reduce her life a little bit. Again, it's not that big a deal when you've got about 60,000 bees in a colony, but again, I don't generally use it. Also, the bees don't read our books, but generally a queen typically won't go above a honey band, and once you get most of the time you'll find the bees are going to create a nice honey band, one at the top of the frame. She may go over that small honeybee, that honey band that's just used for food, but if typically a queen won't go above 20 inches when they start to fill up the boxes solidly full of honey. Again, I have had a queen that has found her way above that honey band, but that's the exception, not the norm. So again, for that reason, because I run 2 deeps and then I run my honey supers, my queen will typically never get up to those honey supers because she's laying in those first 2 layers of boxes, either the first box of brood chamber or the second brood chamber, which I run deeps for my brood chamber. So she typically doesn't get up to the honey supers anyway. So now you have a lot of information. Hopefully you can pick out whether you want to use a queen excluder for your operation or not. Again, in my operation, I do not use them simply because just the way I configure my hives, my queen typically doesn't get up that high. I do have some around my farm just in case I do want to use the Dummies method for swarm prevention, which I explained briefly earlier. And that's the only instance where I can think of where I might use a queen excluder. So That's my video, and thank you for watching.